Good evening. Welcome to Just Jada. I'm Jada, your host. And on today's show, I have an amazing friend of mine. He's an actor, dancer, director, producer, choreographer. The list goes on and on and on and on. Juilliard trained, Avenelli trained. My friend, the amazing Jermaine ROWE.
Hi, Jada.
Hi. Thank you so
No,
much for
thank you,
being
thank
here.
you. I'm so happy to be on Just Jada.
Oh my God, just Jada, right? I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so. I don't even know where to start because it's like, your resume is so big. I actually have his resume here, but I don't need to because I kind of like know all the things that he's done and he's working on. How have you been?
I think well. New York is great. It's a great summer in New York, and I've been really, really well.
Some of the projects that you worked on in the past, my favorite. I'm about to shock you right now.
Oh my
Fela.
God. I signed that pay bill.
I knew I was going to shock you. I think this is the original show that you was in.
Yes, that was one of the last shows that I did on Broadway. Most recent show rather that I did on Broadway. Career-wise, where I started, I guess you wanted to talk about initially. It's been a long journey, and the journey continues. I was born in Jamaica.
Okay.
So I'm an island boy, and Jamaica for me was, I mean, it still is home. And professionally, I started in high school. And started in high school meaning that in high school, we had this amazing performing arts group. And a part of the performing arts group is we have a commission called the Jamaica Cultural Development Center, JCDC. And every year, we'll have these great high school competitions where different schools will compete in music, dance, and drama, speech. And that's kind of how I started performing. I'd go out on these music festivals and sing, do these soloists and performances and group performances, and found I had a natural knack for performing. But alongside that, I had an amazing teacher, Neal who had recently graduated from university, who in the interim came back to my high school to teach. He was a former past student of my high school. And he's a brilliant musician now Dr. O'Neill Mundell, but then came back and started a performing arts high school. And I guess there are no mistakes, and at the time I didn't recognize it, but he came back at a perfect timing when I was there, and he started a performing arts group and was one of the first person, along with another mentor, Hugh Dowse, to see my gifts and my talents and be like, that's different, which is good. And so now I'm such a huge advocate of arts in the school because I probably would have been okay because my work ethic was really strong anyways, but having the exposure to the arts, I became this student who excelled in everything. I became confident. I started to sing and act and dance, and I found no limitation at the time based on any of my career choices. It was you want to sing, then sing, and kind of that's how it started in a very early stage of my career. And then I continued, and at the time being in Jamaica, I didn't necessarily see a career path in the arts. And I wanted to figure that out, but I wanted to still go to university because that was the path that you did. You did high school, we had a thing called sixth form, you went to sixth form, and then you went to university. And I got into an amazing journalism program, and I decided I'm gonna be this journalist. Maybe because there was a part of journalism that seemed like a show. You were a performer, you were on camera, you were performing, and that maybe that was what connected me to journalism. But also, I've always been a storyteller. My mom tells stories, and I remember it very clearly, of this little kid who would come home from school and reenact his entire day for his dogs and the cats and the tree and anything that would listen. I would reenact my entire day. And I found telling stories really interesting. And maybe that was what also connected me to journalism. But now in my career, in my life, I realize that's my gift is being a storyteller. My medium may change, and maybe as a director, as a producer, as a writer, as a dancer, as a singer, but telling stories is what excites me. How to tell stories honestly.
How does the singing and the dancing and the acting, how does that contribute to your writing and telling stories?
Well, the great thing is that I've been so fortunate to study at very high levels and perform at very high levels in all of the work that I've been doing. And to not necessarily go into everything I'm doing right now, my writing now is definitely influenced by the way I see theater, and the way I see theater is the way I've experienced theater. So when I write characters, I see a full image of a character when I write them. I see how they dance, how they move, and I do see the world probably in movement first because of my training. And so sometimes I'm having, even as an actor, a block with how to be honest in this character, how to be honest in telling the story of this character. I sometimes go to, how would they move? How would they get up from this point to go to that point? And going to that basic innate movement that we do every day, what we walk and we don't think about. There's so much you can tell about a person by the way they carry themselves across a room. You can tell a lot in just observing. And I started to play around with that. So my writing explores a lot of how people move, how they sing, and how they tell stories using all these other mediums.
Got it. It's so funny that you said that because our teacher,
Yeah, we had it. Yeah.
we actually went to the same school, the same
Yeah.
theater school, acting school, I should say, and we took classes, and she will always say to me, Jada, the specificity.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hate that
Yeah,
word.
but it's being specific.
It's
yeah.
very, very specific.
and those-
First of all, I couldn't pronounce it. I would say, specific who? And it was like, specificity, Jada,
Yeah.
the specificity in the character.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until later on that I understood that when I actually start writing. And so I get
Yeah.
that point. You know, how does a character sit? What would they say? And the body gesturing and all of the mannerism of a character. So I totally understand and I get that. I get it now in the writing process. As a writer, what did you discover about yourself? What has your writing allowed you to discover about yourself as an actor on the other side of the
That's interesting you
pen?
say that, because I right now doing an MFA in theater, and a lot of what I'm doing right now is exploring being a performer, but also being a theater maker. And in my writings, what surprised me is that characters that are really similar to me, I'm afraid to write. And that surprised me. Any character that's too similar to the true JERMAINE, it's sometimes a little scary, to be honest, with that character. And I find sometimes I made them caricatures. And that was an interesting thing as my first couple of writings, and my teacher and dramaturg would say to me, this character is really interesting right here, but you kind of just touched on that person and they come in and go out. And so it was what got me over that. I started to investigate why was I afraid to go into those characters that were so similar to me and so vulnerable for me. And when I started to really just go for it, then my writing became a lot stronger. I was able to answer questions that other characters may have been having, or I've been having, that I couldn't move the work forward based on deadlines or writer's block. But characters, and that was surprising for me. I thought, oh yeah, I can, because you've seen my work, you've seen I produce off-Broadway one-man shows, and I've talked about very personal things in those shows, and I was okay with that. But writing a drama work, I found that really interesting, that I gave ideas and caricatures of things, but to go really deep with characters that were similar to me was scary.
I get that. It's so funny that you said that because I've written the show too, and I'm opposite of that. I don't mind telling. Like, I tell it all, so
Yeah.
for me, I have to pull back.
Yeah.
Because after I had written, I'm like, because sometimes when you in the writing process, like when you're writing, I'm such an open person. I don't really care. Like I don't have nothing that I'm ashamed of
Yeah.
what I've done. So I truly like to, because I think a character is supposed to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think it's supposed to be organic and real and relatable. And I think the human spirit is relatable, so
Yeah.
you can't manipulate that.
And that's the thing, and earnestly, I want to go to that place, and I try to make my writing connect in that honest way. I was just surprised that came up. I was like, oh, there I am giving advice on how to write, but I found that particularly interesting. And I guess when I create a solo work, it's different. And then when I'm creating a solo work that's based on my truth and my stories and things that I've been through, that I think I can write okay. But writing a play that has these made-up characters in this made-up situation, I think that's where those things are initially were a little bit difficult to do.
Yeah, I get it. I think for me, I think the whole process of that being creative is a part of growing and understanding and knowing and figuring out and feeling comfortable and uncomfortable and going in and inside, exploring those feelings to make you a better writer. Because I think oftentimes, like, you know, art is like imitating life. So I think that when you're writing, it has to be real. It has to be real. And oftentimes it's very easy to have something be like, oh, that's nice over there. But when it's us and our journey and our story, it's a certain vulnerability comes with it. And it takes courage and honesty to write that. And oftentimes it kicks up stuff inside of us. It's like, wow, where do these feelings come from? Because oftentimes we think we know who we are, we're comfortable with who we are, we put on a face for people every day. It's like, yeah, this is me, I'm a dancer, I'm an actor, I do this and I do that. But, you know, when you truly started writing in-depth characters and being truly, truly creative, the universe will challenge you. I went to see your one-man show. I was so moved and inspired by it. I knew that you had wrote that show, and I kind of understood the process of you writing it. It kind of inspired me. Actually, you doing that show inspired me to write mine because I'm an actress. Writer. I've never looked at myself as a writer, and nothing just being on stage and all that. But when I saw you on stage, you made it like I can do this. You know, and I'm going to tell you something that you told me. I was like, I don't know what to start. I don't know what to do. You were like, write 1 page a day. 1 page at a time. And when I saw you on stage, I was so blown away at your honesty. I don't know, it was just amazing. Visually, it looked good. It looked so beautifully. I was so touched by it. You know, going from your childhood to present day and touching on all your experiences, it was freaking amazing.
Thank you very much.
I kind of wanted, and when it was over, I wanted more. Like, I don't know, I just wanted more. So I actually got that thing when you have to do a audition, they say give you 2 minutes, leave them wanting more. I truly understood that in that moment.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, where's this going? I mean, is it gonna put it on Broadway? What is it gonna do? Is it gonna travel with it?
That was interesting because thank you so much for that. That came, my one-man show, Dream on an Island, which I'm very grateful for Tada to help me to put up. It came out of a need to want to do a work that I connected to, that spoke to me. And as I said earlier, coming here, I was still trying to find myself in the bigger Broadway, New York City landscape. And it hasn't been easy at all. I mean, I've been very fortunate. People look at your resume going, you're fine. But it's, you know, every successful or anyone who's come to New York to try to be an artist really understands that it's very difficult.
Very difficult.
And that came at a really interesting time when I did that show. It came at a time when I had to stop myself and redefine what it meant to be a failure or success. Because here I was coming off this amazing show that you saw me on Fela, and then there was a seemingly void. I'd go on these auditions and I would like, you're so awesome, you're so talented. Thank you so much for coming in today. And then there was a gap of just like no callbacks or nothing was happening. And I was just having this really hard time. I started to feel very, it started to make me depressed, but also, I guess, I started to question my worth. Because after a while, it's great. I think it's really, really great to go into auditions and build that muscle and that strength. But at some point, the rejections start becoming personal. And I was really having, and I knew it wasn't personal, but I was really having these feelings of, okay, what's going on? And a lot of the times what I knew was going on was the idea of what roles were available for what I looked like. And sometimes, well, we all know there's a diversity issue on stage. And so what I wanted to do, and maybe because where I came from and my background and whatever it was, because so many, and definitely by my inspiration by so many people right now, Lin-Manuel Miranda, but also Coleman Domingo, and all these really, really great talented people who were writing and presenting their own work, I wanted to challenge myself saying, can I not sit back and ask for people to give me a show or a role and be the entrepreneur of my own career and create my own work? So that one-man show was really a challenge to myself to see if I believe in myself enough to create the work that I wanted to see for myself. And when I started to write it, when I started to figure out what I was going to do, I was inspired by a journalism work that I did, my thesis, that I explored the relationship between homophobia and children getting raped in Caribbean societies and African societies. and to see if there's a correlation between not wanting to talk about child abuse and rape, also because homophobia exists in the society in a very high level, and especially amongst boys. And it got into this really deep research material that I had, and wanted to see how can I get this research material on stage in an honest way. And devising and playing around with myself in the studio. That sounded really crazy. But playing in the studio. playing in
with
the
myself in the studio.
I know.
We can edit that.
It's fine. Actually, it's a great blooper. Playing in the studio and just kind of coming up with how I'm going to tell the story. And what that did for me, it really got me very excited. I remember walking one day, having a really deep day in New York, went to the gym, trying to work out and see, okay, I don't know what's going on. And I walked home from the gym at the time, it was at 14th Street, to where I live in Harlem. A long, slow walk home for like 3 hours, just took my own time, stopped when I needed to stop, and just kind of was just thinking, and I remember thinking in Central Park and thinking, what would I do if I had it? What would I do more than anything else if I had no money, if I had no problems for money? And it was to create my own work, and it terrified me. And so that pushed me into really completing this work. And what I got was such an amazing response for the work. You saw it. So many people, some of my friends came and supported it. So many strangers came and waited for me backstage and gave me so much love for that show. And then it terrified me because then I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know, you've now created this work. You now have people who love it, as you said, I want to see more.
I want to see more.
And people are saying, I want to see more, but then there was this gap. I didn't know how to then take my idea that I put on stage to another level. And then I realized that there was a gap in terms of my own arts education around how to not just be a great performer and writer, but then how to be the entrepreneur of your work, the business side of understanding how to then get your work to that next level if you don't yet have the support. And how do you get the support? And how do you find the community to build it? I realized there was a gap for me. And that's kind of why I decided to go to grad school and try to connect to just me. If this is really what I want to do and pursue, I really need to understand my industry better. And so this is what, yeah.
I got it. I kind of want to touch on two things. I want to piggyback on what you said about, the process of writing and why did you start writing based on, there was a lack of callbacks. But I kind of want to just say this to you, to the point you just made. I think that everyone has a story to tell, especially as I think every single person on this earth has a story to tell. I think that we chose to tell ours as artists. And I think that after you tell that story, it's like, what else do I tell? Because it puts you in a place of truly being a writer and puts you in a place of truly being open and keeping your ears and eyes open to your circumstances, your community, the world that you live in. Even if it's just acknowledging people to find something, bits and pieces to write about, to something can spark and be like a stimulus, be like, okay, you know what? I want to write about this. And that takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a certain awareness and consciousness to walk. We already as artists walk, for me, let me speak for myself. I walk with a certain consciousness as an artist in the world because I love being and living in the moment. And as an artist, for me, that's the only way to be. Like, I always tell people, like, yesterday is gone. Tomorrow's might not be. Only thing we have right now is this. This is in the moment. You understand? So as an actor, I truly understand that. But when you said, the process of writing, I got the business aspect of it because for me, it was the same thing. The rejection, the how many roles can a black woman play? I don't want to, every time I played a role, it was either the prostitute or the baby mama or the shaking of the neck, like these very limited, for me, demeaning roles. But at the time, it was like I was new in the business. I was like, okay, I would do that. But as I started to understand my worth and the art and my creative, I want to say juices that I have inside me, a place that I wanted to create from, it didn't match my spirit. It didn't match it wasn't fulfilling to me. And then that's when I said, you know what? If Jermaine can write, I can write.
I think that isn't that the power of the arts though, where you get so moved and inspired to do some sort of change for yourself. And I think I didn't start writing because I'm just like, I'm just gonna write. I similarly was inspired by seeing so many of my contemporaries writing and creating work. And as you write and create, I started to realize the toughest part is completing it. You can start a work, you can have this great idea, but seeing something through to the end was one of the most powerful things you can do. Going through the process, even if you don't perform it in the way you think you're going to perform it, even if the work is not great or good, I think allowing yourself to start and complete something is also a huge lesson in the whole process of writing.
agree.
And creating your own work is also completing it. That for me has been like, especially when you have no school or company to say, okay, what's the deadline? And you have to create your own deadlines and still work that part-time job. And so how do you,
survival job.
yes, yeah, get accountability for yourself.
Yes.
Having accountability for yourself as an artist in New York, I think it's one of the biggest, hugest skill that I didn't realize I needed to learn. But I'm happy that I've learned it in this process.
Let's talk about Fela. Like you were so amazing. Like this, I've never even heard of Kunta Fela. What's his first name? How you pronounce his first name?
Fela Kuti.
Fela Kuti. I've never even heard of him before. Let's talk about how you got that role.
Oh, wow. So Fela happened, I was living in London, finishing up another production of another show, of Lion King. And I was going to move back to New York, do the audition scene. And I heard that this amazing show, which before that, a friend of mine, Ingrid, saw a clip of Fela online, and she sent us all going, oh my God, this great show is being developed in New York. And we all got excited about the possibility of this show. And it was kind of in the back of my mind, but not really. I was like, I'm just going to audition, get myself in shape. Whatever comes, I'm just going to go for it. And then Fela was coming to London to open at National Theatre. And I'm like, okay, I'll go in for it. And it was the same casting director in London that does Lion King. So I went in, and Bill T. Jones was there, Maya Garcia, and I think one of the guys from the band was there. And we had this really great audition. It was different from all the auditions that I've ever done. Because most of the time you go in, you either get 16 bars, 32 bars to sing a song, or you get a massive dance routine and then you get cut. Here, it felt like a workshop for like an hour or two. So we all the dancers were in the room. We had a warm up together. So they were looking for more than just a great dancer, because I guess by that point, and looking back, they assume that you are at this level, you can hit the step. If you assume that they look at your resume, you've done a certain amount of work, you can do the job. But can you be a company together? Can you work together? Who are you? And that's what I liked about the audition process from that, and I knew it was going to change my life in that moment. So we did the auditions, and I thankfully went through, and I got to the end. And then we did the National Theatre in London first, and we did that for 6 months, which was fantastic. I loved the National Theatre in London. The show was really, really well received there. And then there was a transfer to an international tour, which started, I think we started in Plymouth in the UK rehearsals. And we did that for a while, and we toured the United States, and we did the first national tour of the show. And then we went back to Broadway, and I think that's where you came and you saw us when we were back on Broadway. So that was an amazing journey.
Oh my God, it was so freaking amazing. This was like one of the best shows. I think the world needs to see the show. And by the way, you were amazing in this show.
Thank
My
you.
God,
Well, it's funny you said,
because
Facebook does this thing that they post, that they remind you of pictures that you had a few years ago. And recently, in the craziness of the world, a picture from the show popped up, and I remember reposting it because without the show, I wouldn't have been pushed to do my one-man show. I wouldn't have been, I guess, so brave. Probably I would have been, but it really pushed me to be braver because it told the story of Fela Kuti, who was willing to put his life on the line for what he believed in, but in a way that I can connect to by using his art, by using his music. And he's the father of Afrobeat, which the world now, I don't think the world understands how powerful that was at the time he developed that. A trained musician, somebody who was very well read, very well educated. His mother, who was an activist as well, and came from a family of activists. And Sandra Isidora also influenced his life. And the show really spoke to the testament of how music can be the weapon, how your art can be used for good. And of course, there are things about Fela Kuti that aren't necessarily nobody ever said he was the Gandhi of the world, as we always said in the show, but there was something powerful that you cannot take away from somebody who decided to fight for the country that they lived in, they grew up in, and wanted a better society for his people. And it doesn't get lost in me now what's going on in the world, what's going on in the United States, Black Lives Matters, and the act of terror against so many people. And it doesn't get lost in me that as an artist, what's my responsibility in that? And I think about that show constantly because I think about the way that it changed lives as we went across the world and we performed it in different parts of the world. And we would do this amazing song, Coffin Heads of State, and we'd have these amazing, powerful theatrical moments that would change lives and change every single time it happened. My life was changed as well. And so I really think about now when I create work, my responsibility to create a work that equally respects the people that it's telling the story about, but also is used as my activism. Because activism comes in many different forms. And if I've been given this gift as all of these things that we talked about earlier on, I have a responsibility to then present and create works that speaks the honest truth about the experiences of all people, but also particularly people who are being oppressed, people who have been victimized by hate, and people who need to be uplifted. And I'm a huge weird believer in love, I suppose. And I do think that we sometimes miss forgiveness. We sometimes miss empathy in the world because it's so easy to go to war, understanding. It's so easy to go towards defense. And I think the arts has always been that bridge of healing that has been used so many times in the world, that as a contemporary artist who's a theater maker, I do also, who looks like me, I also have a huge responsibility to write and present work that equally is as powerful as Fela Kuti's Music is a Weapon mantra. So that show really also changed my life equally as well.
Wow. That's so awesome. I'm running out of time. I can talk to you forever, but I truly, to your point, I'm going to say this really, really quick. I think as for an artist, for me, that is my duty as an artist. Number one, that it's not about me. Number two, that if you're not using your art to change the world, then what's the point of it? Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. It was awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was Jermaine ROWE. Thank you for watching Just Jada. Have a great evening.